Welcome, Greek U Nations, episode number 646 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our 9th book just came out. It's called From Letters to Leaders, The Legacy of Service. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, I have so much respect for SIGAP, otherwise known as Sigma Phi Epsilon. It's just an incredible fraternity made up of incredible humans, not only on the undergraduate level, but also alumni that I have been friends with for decades, that I continue to just kind of marvel at some of the work that they're doing and just how, just at the forefront this fraternity is in terms of reducing risk, making campuses safer, and just contributing to our community. So I can't say enough good things about the fraternity. And our next guest is a member and also somebody who worked for their national headquarters. So I wanted to get his perspective on everything that we talk about here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. So our next guest is Jonathan Salmen, a brother of Sigma Phi Epsilon from the University of Louisville, who also served as regional director for SIGEP, where he oversaw chapter operations for 17 chapters. He's also worked for Dell Technologies. Now he's at Northwestern Mutual, but he also does some coaching and speaking to improve life and career outcomes for young men all over the country. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Dude, it's good to be here. I would have to agree with a lot of the things you said about SIGEP. I'm very proud of the time that I had in the chapter and being able to have the privilege of working on staff for incredible guys like Brian Warren and the team that I got to serve with. So, yeah, dude.
Yeah, well, kudos to you. I think you made a great decision. Brian is just an incredible human. I have so much respect for the work that he's done at SIGEP. He certainly lasted much longer than I did as executive director, and he continues just to run a tip-top organization. So I have so much respect for what he's built, what the alumni, all the staff. I mean, just top to bottom. I look at SIGEP as the premier fraternity in the nation, and I just love the work that you're doing, and I love that you're all committed to making it a safer place, even when sometimes you have to make decisions that are, maybe not popular, but you're doing the right thing, and so I really just appreciate that. But let's talk about you. I mean, you decided on the University of Louisville in Kentucky for your undergraduate experience. Certainly a great school. Why did you choose Louisville over maybe some of the other options that you had?
Yeah, man. I was pretty set from a young age. I loved math, thought I was going to go into engineering. I think Louisville has one of the premier engineering schools, at least in the area that I could get scholarship money for, JB Speed School. Um, and my brother was going to school down there. So my brother was always 3.5 years ahead of me in life. And I got to see his experience of not only joining University of Louisville as a student and undergrad for business, but then joining Sigma Phi Epsilon. So I got to kind of experience like, what's that like? Is it like the movies? Is it like something very different? And he'd bring, different friends at his home that he'd meet. And I just kind of got enchanted with like the fraternity lifestyle that I saw him go through. And it was an opportunity for me to kind of do both things. I did not stick with engineering. I ended up graduating psychology, Bachelor of Science, with aspirations to go into therapy or coaching. I didn't really know, but I just fell in love with studying psychology by the time I ended there, and when I graduated in 2021.
Very nice, very nice. Now, there are a whole bunch of fraternities on campus at Louisville. So
Sure.
I guess the question is, were you always going to go SIGEP because of your older brother? Or, I mean, did you even look at any of the other organizations on campus?
Yeah, man. At the time, many of the guys I'd gone to high school with had been Sigma Chi, and generally they were about the same on campus in terms of the quality of guys, the size. It seemed like the popularity and just the feel. But ultimately had to follow my brother, and it was the best decision I ever made. Um, at that up to that point in my life was the best decision I had ever made. And they had a scholarship program which maybe you're familiar with that a lot of SIGEP chapters do across the country. So the Balanced Man Scholarship. And again, my brother nudged me to apply to that. I ended up becoming a finalist, and how could I turn down, free dues to start my fraternity career? Um, and throughout that process, I just got to know so many people, just dozens of great guys. It was such a personal process. And before I knew anything about SIGEP or even what Greek letters meant, I just got to interact with so many guys through that recruitment process over the summer coming in, and it just felt comfortable. And so, when it comes to the recruitment at chapters, that's really what it comes down to. I want to be around like a type of person. I don't really know what, again, I don't know what this executive director's like mission statement is. I didn't know what the ritual entailed. I just was excited to be around these guys who were giving me calls and playing volleyball and taking me out or whatever it was, grabbing food. Um, I just want to be like those guys I was meeting, and that's really what it came down to for me.
Yeah. It really is about those relationships locally. I mean, at the time, I'm sure you really didn't know who Brian Warren was or, what SIGAV really stood for or any of those things.
Right.
You just want to hang out with these guys that you liked hanging out with. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? As
Yeah,
they say in the business, people join people, right? And so, I think
totally.
that was true for you as well. So, but I'm happy to see that it obviously worked out really well for you. So all of that was perfect. Now, I looked at your LinkedIn account, right? And it describes you as being alongside you to more health, wealth, and happiness. I mean, that is just an incredible thing when you really think about it. I'm wondering what personal experiences shaped your mission of health, wealth, and happiness.
Yeah, man. It's been a long it's been 10 years since I joined the fraternity. Um, this time 10 years ago, I was submitting my dorm applications for University of Louisville. Um, Everybody was joking, like, what if Donald Trump became president? To take you back to 2016, it's nuts. In the last 10 years, I could have never guessed as a 17-year-old, like where my life would go to 27. Um, and I'm super grateful for all the people that were part of that journey. Most of that backbone of support would be SIGEP, SIGEP volunteers, like my mentor, Greg Pestinger, who was on the board of directors for a period of time, and was my chapter counselor. And now I'm the chapter counselor of that same chapter. Um, and I want to say the thing that really drove it for me was I got to a point in my life where I finally asked for help. Um, I was overweight, not doing very well in school, not doing the right things when it came to habits, not very healthy, definitely not very wealthy, and definitely not very happy. And so what it really inspired me to do is finally reach out to help. And I had this wonderful chapter counselor, Greg. He took me under his wing, mentored me, and it was the first time in my life that somebody outside of my family or somebody close to me was really willing to like sit down and invest time and give me advice. And that to me was really like my connection to the fraternity. And I immediately turned that around and started doing member development, facilitating dialogue and classes, and just what I call this like kind of dynamic interplay between people, which is like a big kind of topic for me that I like to hit on is there's so much magic in just colliding people with one another. Um, just bringing up a topic, bringing up a taboo, bringing up something and talking about it, especially in the safety of an organization like a fraternity. Um, because I didn't have much to teach, but I could kind of hold court with people talking to each other and arguing. And through that, I just fell in love with coaching as a profession. That's kind of just what I pursued. I did transformational coaching programs myself. I trained under an ICF accredited program. I became a personal trainer, sports nutrition, and now in my current role as a financial advisor, I see it all as kind of the same thing of being able to look eye to eye with people, have conversations like this, share each other's stories, and see where we can find synergy. Um, And over the last 7 years, I mean, there's been so much I've had to learn. And it really comes down to those three things.
Yeah.
The health, wealth, happiness, I see as kind of like a triangle. Each corner kind of pulls on the other two. And, in that time, been able to meet my wife, have our beautiful daughter, and get back involved with the fraternity, gain all these skills, move around the country. Um, and I realize everybody I meet from anywhere in the world, we talk about these three things. Every item that's sold on the market has something to do with one of these three things. And so for me, like, there's a great quote from a volunteer of ours to see yourself no matter where you're at in the world, no matter what your job is, your title, your labels you have, the acronyms behind your name or in front of your name, you're a volunteer first. And I really do see part of my purpose as being able to just volunteer. When people say they have a problem, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a psych background or whatever, but I want to like make time right there. I'll be late for a meeting or like late for dinner if I can have 15, 20 minutes to hear somebody out about what's going on in their life. Um, and it's such a great opportunity to be able to volunteer and be able to do that for guys in the chapter going forward. Um, but to be able to inspire that for guys to do that for each other is something that's near and dear to my heart. So if I can do it personally or I can show you in the right direction, like that's what I feel like I'm here to do.
Well, SIGEP is very lucky to have you as a volunteer, and you've had some great mentors along the way, like Greg, that have really shown you the way. So it's not really a surprise to me that you ended up where you ended up, right? Because you had the
Yeah,
right
man.
people guiding you, and you have the right priorities in life, and you just want to give back so that way other men have great experiences as well. So good for you. And listen, I wish every alumnus had the same attitude that they really just want to give back to make it better for the next generation, right? I mean, that's really all we can do. So fantastic. And obviously, you're a former regional director for SIGAP. So I'm wondering, after going through that experience, working with 17 chapters around the country, what are some of the leadership lessons that still guide you today?
Yeah, man, there's a couple quotes that float around for past staff when it comes to SIGEP, and one of those is relationships drive results and vice versa. Um, and hope is not a strategy. And I'll just stick with those two because it really is something that I feel like I didn't grasp even when I was on the road is, I love meeting new people, starting up new relationships, but the things that make those really substanceful are really what we're able to do for each other. And I don't mean that like in a transactional way, but we really are here to support one another and get each other results, whether that's new stuff or accelerate our missions together. And being able to go to a chapter, meet with key leaders or key volunteers, educate on something, or just be able to grab breakfast with guys. One of my greatest friends is currently the one of the managing directors for SIGEP right now, and I had the pleasure of working with him as a chapter president. And grabbing breakfast is sometimes like that's what's gonna fix. And maybe not the whole country as a whole, but it's something that'll fix like that one chapter, that one person's life who can make an impact. We're always like one coffee away, in my opinion, of pretty substantial change in our chapters. Um, some people just need to be heard, to share a meal, to just for you to just be present with them for a moment, and not pass down an order, but just maybe just be there. And I sort of learned that throughout the road. Some people, it's like I need to send them a 10-point checklist in an email, and other people just let's grab breakfast. Let's grab a beer. Sometimes those were the things that I look back on and I go, man, these are still guys that like send me Christmas cards or say happy birthday or just ask me how I'm doing or call me out of the blue. Not just the guys on my team, but the volunteers I worked with. People hit me up on LinkedIn years later. What are you up to? Are you going to conclave? Like it's it's something I would have never expected. And I go back to some of the results we got in those chapters, and some of the things I was able to do are the reason I have those friends. And then the second one, that hope is not a strategy, was something my immediate supervisor would always say to us in team meetings, because I'm an idealist, and it's not obvious, but I really do. I focus a lot on like, oh my gosh, what's the perfect thing for a relationship, or what's the perfect thing? We hear it all the time here at Northwestern Mutual of like, what's a perfect plan I can do with my money? Um, and it's not about always dreaming and keeping your energy in like what's the perfect thing to do. The reality is like there's probably not a perfect thing to do, and you just got to implement something. And so getting hope's great, but the implementation is so much better. And that's just something I had to continuously learn. Being sort of a dreamer or a visionary type archetype, that I got to figure out how to make some stuff happen. And definitely getting married, being a father, puts some things into perspective if I didn't already have them in place already. Um, but yeah, those things I take with me forever, really. Every time I think like chaotic, what do I do here? I I go to like, let's find a diner. I
Yeah.
still do that. I'm like, I don't really know how to move forward. So maybe like here we have a thing called Geta, if you're not familiar, but Geta and eggs, some biscuits and gravy. Um, that'll do the trick for me. Just
Yeah.
whether it's personally or in my family or with somebody I'm trying to work with. It's one breakfast away.
Yeah. Listen, I totally agree. Obviously, I named the podcast Fraternity Foodie. And the reason why is because, sometimes we come at these issues at different angles. We have different opinions, we have different beliefs. But if we get together for, I don't know, a lunch, we're going to go get some barbecue in Nashville, we can agree that this is just a great plate of food. And so everything else, all of those other preconceived ideas, preconceived notions, disagreements, all kind of fall by the wayside because we're just enjoying something together. And by doing so, then we immediately drop all of those walls and everything else can come crashing down. And then we can get to the bottom of what it is that we need to accomplish here. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. It's behind Fraternity Foodie. You can take different people from different places, different views, different lenses, and we can find agreement over food. There's no question. So that's really good. And you seem to balance everything. I mean, and we talk about balanced man certainly within SIGEP, and you teach zero-based thinking and the 80-20 rule. How can college students use these ideas in order to balance a lot of pressure that they're feeling in academics, in leading their fraternity or sorority, and also having a social life too?
Man, it's great to dive into some of those principles. I think one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got was, we're always told in interviews we're going to be asked our strengths and weaknesses, right? Going into a job interview, and you should be able to communicate those. And personally, for me, it's somebody had told me this of, we're really good at identifying our weaknesses, and then we pour into those. And long term, we just end up being average at everything. And he used these numbers for me of like 1 to 10. He's like, there's things I know I'm a 2 at. And sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm a 2 at that. I'm going to delegate that out because the time it would take me to go from a 2 to an 8 or a 10, I wouldn't use any of my strengths, things that are like sevens and eights that I could take just a couple points up. And so when I think about how to apply like principles like that, it's identifying like limiting factors for good to great, as opposed to identifying the limiting factors of very weak to okay, which there's some things like definitely. as a health guy, if you're weak in things, you should get that from okay to great as fast as you can. I believe in that, but there's certain tendencies that we have. Like, um, I'm not, as somebody who works in financial planning, I'm not a planner. My favorite part about the business is being able to get out in front of people and talk to them, learn about their problems, troubleshoot, some basic counsel, and then give that to the planning department or one of my partners to do the plan. And a lot of people are like that. Um, and so I know, like, I'm not going to focus a lot of time on the planning skill. But what I need to figure out is like, okay, what's the best way to teach? The teaching skill. If I'm at an 8 naturally, how do I get that to a 10? If it's knowing certain products, if it's knowing certain ways of giving advice, like how do I get that from an 8 to a 10? But everything else, like there's an opportunity to delegate. And so going back to that is like 80/20. I use the Pareto principle all the time as someone who was passionate about engineering, went on engineering co-op, studied systems engineering in the Toyota way for so long. That 20% of what you do drives 80% of your life. And in the 20% of what you do, I like to, like I just said, dissect that down to like, what am I naturally good at? And how can I make that just, how can I polish it? Versus focusing all the time on what we're weak at, um, which totally different subject, but I feel like social media and all types of other influences really drive that in for people. People are very present with what they're weak or what they're angry about or worried about. And so what I think it is an opportunity to think of like, if I could just start over and only do the things I'm really good at, what would I do? Um, it's just really a great reset for young guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as somebody who leads a team of 22 speakers, I'm very cognizant of what I do really well, and I focus in on that. And then I just outsource everything else
Right?
because just focus on what you do well, and that's why we have a team. Because in a chapter, you're going to have some people that are really good at certain things, and other people that are good at completely opposite things. And the key is to make sure you got the right people in the right spots on that bus. And if we can all do that, then I mean we can win chapter of the year. We can be the best fraternity on campus.
Right.
But you got to get the right people, and then you got to get them in the right seats because not everybody is good at everything. And so knowing, I think, is super important, and knowing yourself, knowing what you're good at, and you clearly do, which is really good. And also, it doesn't seem like you have much stress really in your life. I'm wondering, how do you reduce that stress for people who are super busy? Let's say they're chapter president, and or maybe they're in the IFC and they've got a position there that's taking up a lot of time. How do you reduce stress for these people?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of like to preface say that your biggest problem's your biggest problem, no matter who you are. Um, I don't know if there was some sort of monetary or mathematical measure for how much stress is in my life. It's probably a lot, as as a dad of a 15-month-old and starting a new career and doing other things on the side. And I'm sure whatever my biggest problem is, it is my biggest problem. And I know that, so trying to compare apples to oranges to undergrads, but the way that I go about things is like I'm really um, a stickler for silence. Um, for people that know me, I still book off what I call Papa's porch time, which is my grandfather who's passed away. He would spend maybe hours. I thought he just lived on the porch in retirement, and everybody else scurries around, checks their phone, like checking emails at dinner. The TV's on. There's something to do. There's something happening tomorrow. What are we doing this weekend? And he was just on the porch watching the birds. And I would go out there with him as a little kid. And as an adult, in college, I got away from that. We get busy. Um, it- I'm a big fan of, I believe it's I think it's Seneca's book on the shortness of time. This archetype of the busy man. We often like envy it as men. Like I want to be busy. I want to tell people, no, I don't have time. I don't have time right now because it makes me feel important. And I never wanted to be like that. I always wanted to have silent time, and no matter what's going on, no matter what your role is, you've got anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour a day. And if you don't, like you can make it to just whether that's like going for a walk and just doing nothing, whether it's meditating, whether it's prayer. Um, that's the one discipline that served me for at least the past 6 years in a more disciplined way. But no matter what I was doing or how much money I was making or what was going on, I gave myself that time. And man, I wish I did that as an undergrad because I just felt like I felt like I was late all the time for I felt like I was late for things I didn't even have to go to. I felt late. Um, my like state of being, it was just a sign above my head that was like, he's late. That's how I felt. I'd wake up early and feel like late for the day. And I get that's where a lot of chapter leaders, that's where a lot of volunteers, that's where a lot of executives, no matter what you're doing, I think you wake up and you feel it's good to have a little bit of that. Like I'm not doing enough. I think that's a driver that pushes people to the top. Um, but you gotta temper it with some nothing time, some Papa's porch time is it's just it's religious at this point. This is Lent season and Ramadan, and I'm fasting like I'm sure many other people around the world are. And it's just such a nice opportunity to do that. I wouldn't do this if there weren't some religious driver to it. Um, but yeah, I'm a big proponent of meditation, silence, fasting, all of it, to get your mind back. Because there's so many things that are going to happen in the next 15 hours. You're out hanging out with people or leading or managing or working that's going to, shift your focus. And so, yeah, that's the biggest piece of advice I could give.
Yeah. As an undergrad for me, I mean, we didn't have things like social media and other things that were pulling at us all the time. And so I think about, that silent time you're talking about. I feel like we had a lot more silent time because we weren't carrying around this device that we would mindlessly scroll. We just talked to other people in person. And that was our Facebook, right? It was like, no, there's real life. We're going to sit next to like our fraternity brother and have a conversation because we couldn't scroll. There was no cell phone, it didn't exist. And, that kind of leads me into the next question, which is I think our mind is really the most precious resource that we have. And on social media, as an example, I'm sure we are reminded of our shortcomings all the time. I could go onto social media right now, onto Instagram, and see some guy with like six pack abs and go, man, I really wish I had a six pack right now. And so, how do all of those,
I'll stop posting,
yeah,
Mike. I'm
stop
sorry.
posting on those, photos on the beach over there with your shirt on. So, so how do negative thought patterns limit today's student success?
Yeah, man. And I think it's a profound topic to cover too, is I really think that I firmly believe this, convicted about it, that the world is going where our mind collectively is focused on. So I see that in my life, my life has gone where my mind was, whether that was a style of spending money, whether it was a style of dating, whether that was how my body looked. It was pretty much like I was finding a solution to a lack somewhere out in the world that I had imagined, or maybe it was real, or maybe it was imagined. And when it's consumed, like when I've been consumed with negativity, the decisions are terrible. Just really, really low rate decisions get made when you're coming from a place of this sucks, or very cynical, like it's never going to get better, which I see as dominates the conversation of admittedly, like my brain sometimes, it necessitates the silent time to reset or the meditations, the affirmations, um, because we head exactly where our head is. Um, that's just I think that's why we maybe even use the term that's where you're headed. I think it's we think ourselves into our life and to to just give that away to all the sort of like fluffy chakra healer type and brush it off and say it's not real. Um, it does so many young guys a disservice to say, oh, that's like fluffy psychic stuff. Okay, then I'll talk to you in like 5 years and we'll audit it, right? And in 5 years from now, if you still think that, which I know you won't, um, maybe if you can prove me wrong and say, no, my mind was in the gutter for the last 5 years and I'm killing it. I'm healthy. I met a girl. I'm making the money I want. I feel great, but my mind's been terrible the whole time. Show me somebody. Really, I haven't met one yet, but like I would love for somebody to defy it. So at this point, it's just a truth. Like negative thought patterns just aren't worth the price you pay.
100%. I agree completely. Now, back when I was an undergrad, I feel like an old man when I say that. Back when I was an undergrad, we would try to raise money for the chapter by setting up in the student union, we would set up a table and we would sign other college students up for credit cards. And we would get paid for each application that was approved. The
Oof.
fraternity would get a check, and this is what we used as a fundraiser. Now, the downside was we never realized this, but a whole bunch of college students ended up getting into terrible debt because of this project, and they
Oh
completely
man.
ruined their credit. So I guess the question here is, especially for somebody like you that's now working for a financial company in Northwestern Mutual, what conversations about money should students be having before they graduate?
Man, all of them. All of them. I had the pleasure of speaking to a guy who's graduating, full-time job lined up actually just today. And he was excited. He's like, man, I know most people probably only do this like when they have a job, but I'm so glad like I talked about this today. Um, and he admittedly like more educated than most college grads on finance. Self-education is definitely very popular. There's a lot of resources out there. Um, but the conversations people should be having are the ones we have with clients every single day or prospective clients is short-term, mid-term, long-term retirement planning. Because what you do in the next 5, 10 years can really set you up for all of these things that seem irrelevant, whether that's insurance products, investment strategies. It's all irrelevant, it seems, to a 20-something-year-old guy. I would even argue a couple years ago, it seemed irrelevant to me. And then starting to think of my family, starting to think of, man, what are we doing in 30 years? Those all become relevant topics. When you think about kids, multiple kids, buying a house, investing in real estate, uh, there's so many things that just aren't relevant. And I think much like, one of my favorite quotes, again, sorry, I'm a quote guy. It's Ralph Waldo Emerson. I can't remember the books I've read any more than the meals I've eaten, and yet they've made me. And if I had to give a adjacent analogy to finance, I ate no meals, read no books when I was in college on finance. Um, and I assume that's the same for most people. And so what's going to make you are probably just like your parents' habits or the collection of a few tidbits of information. And really, people should talk to a professional in the industry. Um, Talk to a person who's very successful. How'd you do it? How'd you manage it? What should I do? And going back to the very first thing we talked about, asking for help. I mean, being able to ask for help. Nobody wants to talk about. their financial strategy. It's an intimate thing. We joke here all the time that people would rather talk about sex at the bar with a stranger than talk about their credit card debt or talk about even just like long-term goals for their family or insecurities they might have about what they're leaving their family, or nobody wants to talk about it. So it's easier to talk about when you're 20 years old, 21 years old. Do it sooner. It's just something I wish I would have gotten started on and interested in when I was like in high school. Yeah.
You have the benefit of time. That is the
Yeah.
beauty. I mean, there are concepts out there like compounding interest that, I just don't have as much time as you do, Jonathan. And so, just for that fact, if we start putting money away at an early age, like in college, compounding interest and that time value of money, that ends up being a lot at retirement. So I think the earlier you start having those conversations, I agree, the better. Let's talk about community service because I think SIGEP is really good at this. Why is community service so important for your own personal growth, especially in Greek life?
Yeah, I mean, I think for personal growth, and then I want to talk a little bit about the maybe the opportunity of being in a fraternity when you get started doing it is I going back, I think we really do get out of the world what we put into it. Um, I think one of the biggest problems right now, I like to talk about apathy a lot with guys, is, I really think apathy comes from, on one end, people who are very competent, very capable, could help, but are silent. They think like, nah, people don't want my help. Um, and there's that kind of belief. And on the other end, there's people who are like, it wouldn't matter if I helped. It's just so bad, it's so beyond repair, it wouldn't matter. Right? What if I help one person, if I donate one coat, if I give $10? And I think really like having the faith that if you just personally open up uh, and try to serve and give this thing that you think really is lacking in the world, whether you're in the really cynical nihilist group or you're in the just sort of like reserved, isolated group, trusting that if you just like give a little bit, something good will happen. Whether it's even just like meeting somebody else who's doing it, or really getting to like see your impact. And admittedly, like I felt like that as a young man. I was like, I'm broke. I don't have a degree. I'm not anyone special. What would my contribution to this XYZ project really do? Um, and it's just immaturity. There's so many things you can contribute to, so many people I could have helped if I just believed like I have something to offer. So there's like a little bit of just like conviction, and like every single person has something to offer, whether that's just listening to somebody or just voicing your opinion or giving like whatever, giving your $5, donating some clothes to Goodwill. We all have something we can offer. Um, is it going to fix the whole problem? Probably not. And so going to like the impact of what a fraternity can do, really easy example is like one person giving $1, probably not going to do much. But 1 million people giving $1, you know, again, I'm a math guy. It's $1 million, I think. And so it's like, it's like the, that's how simple fraternity is. You got 100 guys. If assuming even half of them participate, you 50x'd your mission. Um, Ideally you want everybody trying to like work towards this one thing to improve this one thing or this cause. But there's like such a unique period of time where you're in college, especially in Greek life, where you've got all these like-minded people around you. And if you say, hey, let's do this pancake fundraiser or do some sort of like profit share with Chipotle, or you can actually have an impact if you have so many people there. And that's not going to happen the rest of your life, is what I think people recognize when they graduate. It's not easy to get 20 guys to go to the gym with you, or it's not easy to get 50 people on board. It's hard to get even one person on board with you. Um, and so just take advantage of the time you have in college to, you guys can 50x, 100x, some chapters 300x a mission. Um, you can get what could be done over the course of a year by yourself in one day. And it's just that's just something that I think a lot of Greek people take with them as they get older, but it's hard to remember it sometimes when you're just banging your head against the wall trying to get something done. You realize like, man, I wish I had 99 guys here to help me do this, to pick up leaves in the yard, uh, just anything. But yeah, it's not always going to be like this where you got that multiplier at your as an asset. So take advantage of it.
Totally agree. You know, the one thing that I took from my big brother in the fraternity was just working out at the gym. I really didn't know how to get fit at all when I came into college, but luckily my big brother did. And he was really that accountability that I needed because there were certainly days that I woke up and, maybe we had, a mixer the night before or something. And then he's like, let's go. It's time to go to the gym. Wake up. And like, he'd be banging on my door and to get me out of bed and vice versa, by the way. There were plenty of days that he didn't feel like getting out of bed. And, probably just to spite him, I would be knocking on the door and dragging him out of bed so we can go to the gym together. And it was just the two of us. It was really, there was nobody else. It was the two of us, and we knew it, and we held each other accountable, and we got incredible results through this methodology. So, and you're seeing this, I'm sure, in SIGEP chapters all over the country too. There's just no accountability. We have all of these good intentions. We start the year off and we say that we're going to be healthier this year, or we're going to eat right this year, or we're going to work out this year. And then come the end of February, we've missed weeks and we're like so not on track. So, why is accountability often that missing piece, whether we're talking about self improvement programs with your physique or student organizations getting results?
Man, it goes back to just like some of the things like relationships drive results, hope's not a strategy. Um, it's I've never really wanted to do anything that everything I look at that's successful that I've wanted to do was because somebody else kind of was like gave me permission to do it. And that's a thing like I think about quite a bit now is in coaching or consulting or whatever you're doing, where maybe it's an advice giving field. Um, Nobody really ever tells anybody something they don't already know. And so the value of leadership and what leaders offer, which is accountability, is that ability to give people permission to do the things. I really do think like young guys join a fraternity and they go, I want to get in shape. I want to be on the dean's list. I want to land a cool internship every summer and get a nice job. Um, and all it takes is charisma from people. It takes like caring about wanting to be there on both ends. Just like I want to be here, right? And most people say that, and I don't believe them the way they say it. It's like there's no energy. Like, do you want to be here? Because if you do, um, like making it just commonplace, like this is what we're about. Like you've joined, now here's the permission to get your six pack abs and make Dr. Mike feel insecure. Go do it. Mike needs he needs the motivation. Do it for
I
him.
need the motivation. Show me.
And so I really do think like fraternities and I'll say it like there's the negative aspect of that kind of group think of we give each other permission to do sometimes horrible things, sometimes unethical things. Um, and the same ability is used to do incredible philanthropy, to network across the world with fraternity brothers. That same charisma to give people permission to do what it is that they want to do with their life. It's possible either way. It's possible to either do it for like the things we're tempted by and those like kind of lower hanging motivations as young men, but it's just as easy to say, oh, no, here you have the permission to be a 4.0 student. Uh, we give you the resources, bring people in to help. We have volunteers, network. We can lean just as much into either one of those. Um, the success of a great philanthropy event takes almost as much effort as like an illegal keg party. And it's just, but which one are we feeding? Like, which one are we giving people permission to do? And so I think what leaders have to be responsible for is like, what are you allowing? What are you just like, we talk about chapter culture all the time, everywhere, probably in every fraternity, every company in the world talks about culture. But it's like, what are you letting slide? And what are you saying? What are you just making like a given? Like, what is the commonplace thing? And that's the accountability. Um, it's just, it feels weird to not fit in with, if everybody's at the gym, it just feels weird for me to not join them. If everybody's grade average is here and I'm down here, nobody likes feeling excluded. And so the accountability is like something we'll self-enforce if the leaders put the environment and the expectation there.
Well said. Very nice. All right. So listen, this has been a lot of fun, and I do get to Kentucky pretty often. I live in Franklin, Tennessee, so it's not really all that far. So the next time that I end up in Walton, Kentucky, I need to know, where should I go for a great bite to eat?
Yeah, man, my joke about this is like you should leave and go to another city.
Go to some other
Um,
city, any other city.
I have a couple places like that, family favorites. Walt's Hitching Post is closer to Cincinnati, like Taylor Mill.
Mhm.
But Cincinnati is such a nice area nowadays. It's just really blown up. Places like Over the Rhine. Was lucky enough to go to a steakhouse with some coworkers at Los Santi. It's like an Italian steakhouse, just a cool area. And there's so many things to check out. There's a lot of history in Covington and Cincinnati with food and the different kind of immigrants that have worked through here over the past 200 years. So yeah, head up to Covington and Cincinnati. Do yourself a favor. You're close enough.
Yeah, we actually did that. My A couple of fraternity brothers, three of my chapter brothers, actually came down to see a ball game in Cincinnati. So we all met in Kentucky. We got an Airbnb, and then we literally walked across the bridge to go and watch the game. And yeah, we had a blast. We had some really good food, and it was a good time. So I think you're onto something there. All right. So, where can our listeners connect with you? Let's say they want coaching services. Let's say they want speaking services. Where should they go to connect with you, Jonathan?
Yeah, man. It's kykeoncoaching.com, Kykeon, and then coaching. And you'll just be able to connect, throw your stuff in. There's an opportunity to just get in contact with either me or Greg, and set something up, set up a time to chat free of cost. We'd love to hear from people.
Fantastic. Well, the two of you guys are the best in the business. So, certainly happy to have you on the Fraternity Foodie podcast. And Greg, of course, is welcome anytime as well. You guys just do incredible work. And it really just doesn't surprise me with your backgrounds as volunteers for SIGAP. Of course, you're going to do incredible work. So thank you. Thank you so much for working with young men, for the coaching and the speaking that you do. It's just really appreciated. And I know all the undergraduates that have seen your work and have worked with you over time, they're really appreciative of the time that you're giving back, that you're pouring into them. So on all of their behalf, thank you.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. All right. And to our listeners, if you learned something today from Jonathan, I want you to share this episode with your entire chapter. Throw a link in a group chat to your entire chapter, or just share it on social media, because more people need to hear what Jonathan is talking about today. And you just never know who needs to hear that message. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.